Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, hour number 2. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and our special in-studio guest joining us for the entire second hour. I feel like it's been like a year and a half in the making, but finally have him here. University of Hawaii men's basketball head coach, Eran Ganot. Woo! Say hi to all the people watching on YouTube,
Hello,
EG.
everybody. Thank you for having me. It is an honor. I know it's been a while to get to this point. I know we had to adjust around Paul's schedule, so here we are.
We did. I want to make sure we give Coach some credit because we were efforting in the summer, but the kind of the week where he was like, oh, I can come to the studio this week, I'm like, oh, I don't know. Paul would be sad because he's kind of doing his big boy things.
Was I in Alaska or in New York at the time? Because I was all over the world at that point.
Yeah, one of those. But fortunately, we were able to get you in here. And I know it's starting to get busy because practices have just gotten started. And again, want to give a shout out and congratulations to Cody Williams, who it was just announced that he has been put on scholarship. So we'll definitely ask you about him and some of the other new players throughout the show. But as we always do with our in-studio guests, as we've had a lot of coaches to come through here. But we want to start from the beginning and take a trip down memory lane just a little bit. So obviously we do know stuff about you, but I always want the fans to hear it directly from you. So we'll start very easy. Just tell everybody a little bit about where you're originally from.
So, born in Philly, grew up in New Jersey, obviously went to Swarthmore College, about 20 minutes outside of Pennsylvania. Family of 4, great family, great parents. Obviously, as you guys know, I'm a twin brother. I have a twin, Asaf, and older sister Betty, younger sister Danielle. We're kind of scattered. We've always been East Coast, and then it's crazy because 21 years growing up in the East, and basically this is my 22nd year coaching all in the West.
And I have to ask, did you and your twin brother ever have fun switching places at all?
All twins get asked that question all the time, and some people do. We never did. So there's that question out of the way.
And so you guys both have, in case people don't know, they have 2 entirely separate careers. His twin brother is actually in fashion design. It's pretty awesome. So being that like you took 2 different career paths, what was it about? When did you kind of get into the sport of basketball? What made you play it? Did you play other sports growing up? And was your brother someone that was into sports, or was he always completely into that type of industry?
No, we loved sports early, and our parents did a good job throwing us into everything. And you hear me talk to parents and families about, when you're young, you should play everything. And then kind of when you get to high school, college, whatever, you can start to specialize. But all the sports at a young age attack different things, and so I think it's good when you play every sport. And obviously when you have siblings, it gets competitive. You can imagine how competitive it can get when you have a twin brother. Mm-hmm. And so it's constantly, and our parents basically like, hey, if we want to do any sports, we had to get good grades, get to class, all those kind of things. So we got really good. And I don't know if it was exact correlation, but really good in the classroom because we wanted to play sports. And so in the mornings, I remember going to school early to get some sports in. And then right after school ended, right back to sports. And so both of us played through college. He played at Franklin Marshall, a really good Division III school in Pennsylvania as well. And then I went into coaching. He went into kind of the fashion world. That's what my dad was in clothing manufacturing, and my brother learned a little bit about that, but wanted to be more in the design side. But I always say this about everybody: we're all so fortunate if we can find a passion. Sometimes it takes longer to do that, but once you find it, go get it. And that was his, and this is mine.
I must say, though, because I remember the last time he was here, and he was, obviously staying with you, and we see him walking with Zisa with a hat on, and it's like spitting image. Like they are, by all accounts, like identical twins. So it's a little trippy at first, especially like I said, he has his hat on because you guys do have a little bit of a different hairline. So when he has his hat on is like the only time I'm like, they look exactly the same.
There are times I think that, most people around us, because there's some twins that are, Javon was more, and his brother was a little bit more, tougher. I could tell by the voice and maybe just being around them all the time. But no, it's interesting when he's in town, and it'll be great to have him back. He's a great uncle too.
Yeah. Okay. So what was it about? You said you played multiple sports. What was it about basketball that you really loved and fell in love with and wanted to pursue it in the long run?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And the good thing about growing up on the East for the sports is you had the different seasons. So, you play football in the winter and with the snow out there. And sometimes we play tackle basketball out there on the snow. And but baseball, it was always soccer in the fall and baseball in the spring and everything in the summer. But, then it got down to baseball and basketball. As you know, I'm a big Don Mattingly fan growing up and as a East Coast guy. And I wanted to be Don Mattingly, so I think I would wear the eye black and maybe try to draw a mustache and played first base and try to bat left even though I was a righty. And, I was just trying hard to be like him. And although I took a lot of his qualities in terms of, because he was the captain, the Yankees leader. But what was the question again?
No, just what was it? I know I asked what his passion was about basketball, and then he went entirely on baseball, which I love it. So you're sharing about baseball, but yeah, what was it about basketball that you felt really gravitated to?
I think is fortunate because at the end, when I'm 9, 10, you're seeing the end of Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, the start of Michael Jordan. Here comes Shaq. I remember when Shaq came to town, it was a big thing. I was actually at the game when he took the basket down against New Jersey, and
no.
I think I was 11. Yeah, we had signs all over our community that said the Shaq attack is in town, and and then we both started to gravitate towards it, and then we found any opportunity we could to play it, and watching it. We started to go, to be honest, we used to go to Nets games. It was in the Meadowlands area. I think it was Brendan Byrne Arena, then Continental Airlines Arena, and I'm telling you, there was like no security. So you could go. I remember going to Nets games in the late 80s, early 90s, and I feel like you could go onto the court, rebound for the players, and so we would do, and they were cheap tickets, as you can imagine. And the few times we could go to a Knick game, and that was the heart of, like, we had some really good, and this will get to why I wanted to coach. Like, in that stretch, you had, like, Buck Showalter with the Yankees. You had Pat Riley with the Knicks into Jeff Van Gundy. You had Parcells with the Giants and the Jets. And so I really loved playing the game. I loved talking about the game. I loved watching the game and then watching teams, watching those coaches. And, as always, you want to play as long as you can. If you can't, I wanted to stay in the game. And, that's what ended up drawing me to coaching.
That's so interesting to think about, just in terms of a lot of young people are drawn to players, right? And to be drawn to the coaches as well during that time, especially considering those coaches, is really interesting. Was there one of them that really did draw? Was it just as simple as basketball, Pat Riley and, Jeff Van Gundy? You looked at that, or did you like and take some of those coaching styles from like a Buck Showalter, from a Parcells and whatever? Did you take that and think how you wanted to include that in a basketball career?
I think like everything, you learn from everybody and you put yourself into it because you got to be who you are. So I think guys you look up to, coaches, players, also your parents, guys I wanted to coach also because the coaches had such a big influence on me. So guys who, John Cornet was a youth coach for me. Coach Kamizzi was a youth coach for me. And then I had Kurt Holman, who was a great coach at high school, then went to play for Coach Lee Wimberly, who was actually Popovich's assistant at Pomona Pitzer back in the day. And and then was his head of scouting with San Antonio. He had a big influence on me. And so then it became, my dad had a big influence from my parents. So, eventually you hear me say a lot, you work your tail off in life to be in a position of influence so you can give back in a positive way. And sometimes, I liked it. Obviously, I loved hoops and I loved the game. I loved to compete. I loved being part of a team. And when I couldn't play, I realized that I wanted to give back and talk about the game. And I was a captain for a couple of years, and you felt like you had some of that responsibility as well. But like, think about it when you're a kid and you go early to games and you somehow sneak behind and watch Pat Riley, and you're going like, hey, I'm obviously not as cool as Pat Riley, but he was cool.
He's a pretty cool
He's
cat.
pretty cool, yeah. What position did you play when you were playing?
Well, when I was in high school, I played two guard. And then when I got to college, this is Swarthmore for you at that time. We always had like half our team go study abroad in the middle of the year. And a lot of some of these liberal arts colleges, and I didn't know what was going on. So you start at the 2, and then when half your team goes, you're playing some 3 and some 4, and that wasn't good for anybody. But that's kind of well, that's the situation. It helps in your coaching career a little bit, but me at those positions isn't good for anybody.
So two guards. So have you and Brad Davidson have a shooting contest?
I'm not, you fight battles you can win. And Brad is a great shooter, and I'll stick to the coaching piece.
We are joined in studio with UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot. But we got to take a break, so we'll be back in about a minute. Don't go anywhere. This is Wake Up in the Den on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani Paul Brecht, and we are joined in studio with UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot. Still in our getting to know you phase of this hour, and then coming up in the second half of the hour, we will get into what I know a lot of people have texted in so far about this year's team and how it looks and all of that stuff, even though practice just got started last week. So there's a lot to figure out with how rotations are going to look like and whatnot. But let's stick to, again, the getting to know you phase with Coach EG here with us. All right, so we talked about how you gravitated towards coaching, but how exactly did your coaching career get started?
Well, it's interesting. I had a lot of back issues the middle of my college career. I had it first in high school, but when you get hurt when you're younger, you just get up and it goes away. And so I think I got arrogant. I was a worker, and I kept working when I felt something, and it probably made it worse, but I didn't know that was going to happen. So that's when I didn't feel like I could get through that. Maybe I want to stay involved in the game. And my junior year, I remember my coach telling me, he did a surprise. They did a surprise medical deal when I came in the locker room, and I failed the physical because of my back. I was kind of trying to hide it from people, and then I remember him telling me, "Hey, this is the way this is going. Maybe you want to, start thinking about coaching or something like that." And I said, "Coaching? I still got a couple of years left." I'm like, "Are we giving up on my back?" And so I got it back well enough to play, but it was the first time I started thinking about coaching, and right after my senior year at Swarthmore, how kids they find alums and reach out to the alums about their, I was a double major in economics and sociology, anthropology, but I didn't want to do any of that at all, not for 1 second. I wanted to pick something I wanted to do, enjoy life, and so I wanted to coach, and there's no alums I could reach out to. Actually, me and my classmate Josh Leffler, who's now the head coach at Division I Loyola Maryland, he just got named this offseason, are basically the two guys who are ever really gotten into coaching. So you're on your own. I sent an email and letter to every coach in the country, and I started hearing back from a couple of them. I remember Lawrence Frank, who was the third assistant of the Nets at the time, who's now a good friend and obviously the president of basketball operations for the Clippers. He reached out, let me come to his office. We talked a little bit. Phil Martelli, because he was 20 minutes from, he was at St. Joe's and I was at Swarthmore, and he had me come over to his office. And then I started working camps. That's what they recommended. I worked Kentucky, Virginia, St. Joe's, Villanova, and NC State. And then in August, my college coach, who was really close with, he sends me an email basically, like a friend of mine who's the young up and coming, I still have it, up and coming head coach at St. Mary's named Randy Bennett. He was in his second year, might have something. And then, people thought, I say this story all the time because we talked over the phone and he hired me over the phone. And I'm going crazy in the living room, and my parents are, they're sitting there going, "This kid's not coaching. I hope he's not coaching. like I hope he goes and does this investment banking thing, which I wouldn't have wanted to do." And then I go, "Hey, I just got hired at St. Mary's," and they're like, "Okay, for what? $0. And so obviously I was a volunteer. I know we talked about a volunteer for 3 years, and that's how I started my coaching career. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I tell people all the time, work your way up, make sure you make every decision based on being happy, do what you love, where you love, with people you love, and where you're getting better. And I happen to be around, Randy Bennett, who's now 22 years. This is my 22nd year. He's still the head coach at St. Mary's, one of the best in the country. Our associate head coach was Kyle Smith, who's the head coach at Stanford. Todd Golden was a freshman walk-on for us. He's the head coach at Florida. But it's funny. If you make decisions about being around the right people, all that matters is getting better, and I was very fortunate for that.
Yeah, and good credit to you. And I can only imagine, though, like you said, your parents are like, wait, what? For how much? No, what? Why are we? What is this volunteer stuff that you're doing?
I put him in a tough spot because I'm a parent too. Like you got to, the reluctant acceptance of like, okay, yeah, that's great, congrats. And then, not that they didn't want me to do it, but the deal, like, how much you make and how you living, and it was a struggle for a long time. And I think about like this is my 22nd year coaching. I think like maybe between years 10 and 15, they started to, okay, this is all right now.
So what brought you to Hawaii the first time?
So similar deal. And everything's about who you know. And so after my third year at St. Mary's, my college, Randy Bennett was really close with Riley Wallace. And I always very thankful timing because Coach Wallace was going into his last year. He called me over the phone through that connection and one other. And basically we went through things and he hired me and same thing. It was like, all right, you're in. And, just like with Randy Bennett, I'm like, so am I hired? What does that mean? He's like, yeah, what do you think that means? I'll pick you up at this. So Bennett actually in 2003 picked me up at the airport, got lost on the way back. And Coach Wallace picked me up at the airport in 2006 and when he hired me. And the very next day I was on the golf course. They were doing the Riley Wallace golf tournament. He stuck me on a hole for 6 hours. I didn't even know what I was doing yet. And obviously I got incredibly burnt as anyone could get. And here I am. So that's how I got to Hawaii. I had only been there maybe one time when I was a kid. And it's changed my life.
I was going to ask that. Like, did you come to Hawaii at all before you got picked up by Coach Riley and then got stuck on a golf hole?
No.
That's awesome. I actually did not know that story.
Well, I remember these vividly. Like my first day, Bennett picked me up at the San Fran airport, definitely got lost on the way back. And then the next day was my birthday. I turned 22. And then here we go 3 years later, Coach Wallace hires me, picks me up at the airport, and the next day I'm on the golf course. Burnt. Like really, really burnt. And I think he, in typical Coach Wallace fashion, like you got to learn the hard way. Like someone, I didn't even know what I was doing. And, but anyway, it's good to look back on. And, I always say the profession takes you places. And, I've been very fortunate. Not everybody's been as fortunate. I may have been, and look, I'm 5,000 miles away from where I grew up, but it's been really good to me and I've been around the right people and I'm very fortunate for it.
Yeah, and good thing you did end up in Hawaii, right? Because that's how you met Barbie.
Yeah, well, that's how I met a lot of people, right? I was, and I always tell people too, because I was, 24 when I first came here, and then turned 25. I think it was a couple weeks later. Didn't know anybody, and yet, I just like my daughter who's going through it. When I came here as the head coach, and she was 4. I have a Hawaiian mom and a Hawaiian dad, as you know, and aunties and uncles and the family, people who looked after me. I was single. I didn't know what I was doing. I was alone. And just like my family feels and our players feel, people looked after me and they become family for life. And that's why when I left, people forget I went to St. Mary's, Hawaii, back to St. Mary's. And every summer I came back here and everybody at St. Mary's knew that. Randy, where are you going for the vacation we get? Hawaii. And so I'd catch up with all the family and friends and now see them every day is pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's incredible. All right, talk us through what happened. Now the job opens up here in Hawaii, and was it an easy decision to pull that trigger and try to get this head coaching gig, or talk us through how all of that went when you were looking at being the head coach here?
Yeah, it's interesting that when I came back to St. Mary's, I kind of worked my way up and became the associate head coach, and I had a really good thing at St. Mary's. And obviously, I've only been at 2 schools in 22 years, and people, and I'm a different type of coach. People scatter around; they're looking for their next thing. I'm fortunate because I played for Coach Rimley, who was there for 20 plus years, and then worked for Randy Bennett, who's still there. He's been there 20 plus years. Came to Riley Wallace, and obviously Bob Nash. Both those guys 20 plus years, and I'm probably old school in this regard. Like guys want to do something and get out of there, and we never did. That group, we want to build something, and we like seeing tradition, and like you heard me say, I like the 8th annual tip off and the 8th annual Coaches vs. Cancer, and we honored the 100th season of Hawaii basketball, and I always tell people all the time, what a thrill for me to work for Coach Wallace and Coach Nash and meet Red Rocha before he passed, and got really close with Larry Little, and so I'm really Hawaii, everything's in my heart. So what was the question again? I'm rambling.
No, I love it because this is the side
I'm hanging on every word
this
over
is the
here.
side that like I know a lot of fans and listeners never really get to hear, because we usually only talk about basketball, which again people will get to a little later in this hour. But it's just sharing how, like you said, you like to go somewhere where you feel like that's where you're going to be in tradition. But what allowed you, or what led into the decision when you were at St. Mary's to come back and be
and
the
by the way,
head
as you
coach
can
here?
tell, I'm not embarrassed to say, what was the question again? No,
That's
I
fine.
forgot it alone. And as you get older, you don't care. You know, so I was in a good place. You know, at the time, and it's the same when you're, for some of those guys, that group, when they're there, they're invested there. They don't see anything else. You kind of do your best job, make the job you're at the best job, invest in it, put your heart into it, and the rest will take care of itself. So, you know, in my mind, at St. Mary's, I was in my 12th year. I was 33, and we were doing really well, and I was really invested there. So I always say, like, when people say their dream job, it's funny to me when people say, like, 100 dream jobs. I'm like, isn't a dream one? Like, there's one. Like, I always wanted to be the head. Obviously, you start this because you want to one day run your own program, and that's what it's all about. And some people say, I just want to be a head coach. I always said I want to be a good head coach. So there's no rush. I want to keep getting better and then put myself in position. Whatever happens, happens. But I only wanted to coach where I played or worked because I had my heart was there. You know, so Swarthmore, St. Mary's, Hawaii. I just didn't understand the other stuff yet because my heart was there. But then, you know, from afar, you know, you're locked in your season. Obviously, things were going on here, but it wasn't really still in my mind. You know, it was a unique time at UH. There was NCAA investigations going on. There was coaching changes. There was a lot of stuff. And you're following it from afar as much as I follow Swarthmore, who's now been to Final Fours, by the way. And St. Mary's now I follow while I'm here, too, in my high school. But you're so locked in to where you're at. And then all of a sudden, you know, I had some people reach out about my interest, but I remember going like, well, you know, let's do a great job here and whatever happens, happens. And then obviously things started to heat up a little bit more during the offseason once the season's ended into the Final Four. And then it became clear that this could happen. And so all I remember, though, is, you know, at the Final Four, interviewing at the Final Four, coming back to St. Mary's and then being in the living room area and getting a call. And I think it's like when I do you laugh because when I do an interview or I get a call, I'm like, I'm prepared, to be honest. I'm prepared my whole life. I don't sit there when you hear me speak to people or do a clinic or do an interview. This is me. You like it or you don't. I'm not going to sit there and do these fancy deals. Like, I'm going to speak from my heart because that's how I want with our players, with, you know, people in the community. And so I think when I did the interview, I walked outside and said, they like me or they don't. That's it. I did my part. And so when I got the call, I think it was like, all right, we gave it a shot. And then I got hired. And then I called, obviously Barbie was there, and I called Randy Bennett. And he's like, I'm coming over right now. And we went to an area. We were both in Moraga at the time. We went to an area, I think we had some frozen yogurt. And then he said, hey, why don't you come by? Because I got a call. It was like in the mid-afternoon and said, hey, I'm like, great. Let me enjoy this for a second. They're like, okay, so tomorrow you have a red eye or an early morning flight. And then the press conference is at 9. And I said, as you can imagine, like I said, I got to meet with the players because I don't want their first view of me being at a press conference. I got to meet with them before the press conference. But I'm like, not much time. So, but I think I had a flight that night and then got in morning. And so when I got to Bennett said, hey, why don't you come by for a second to the locker room? And I went to the locker room. Our St. Mary's team was all there going crazy. And that was emotional because, you know, I was excited about what was ahead. But I was obviously, you know, you get really attached to your group. So I do remember those.
Were you more excited about getting that job or getting your volunteer job for St. Mary's? It sounds kind of equal. That's why right now on the excitement level.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Well, the foot in the door was difficult for anybody, as you know. And so it was a moment. You know, I always tell people sometimes the moments you don't forget when you get the call where I was at. And then when I came here, like the other moment was like finding out all that was going on with the program. I knew about the NCAA investigation. I didn't know about some of the other issues. But then it became, the whole deal was always number one, have a plan, number two, be flexible, and kept reminding myself of that. And the you know, you've heard me say with opportunities, you could say challenges, I could say opportunities. So we looked at it as an opportunity, but all those moments were really exciting. I remember when Bennett hired me over the phone, when Coach Wallace hired me over the phone, when Bennett hired me back, and when David Matlin called me. And so those I'll never forget.
It's just a really fun story to listen to because I think there are a lot of young coaches who probably can listen to that and take a lot from it where it really does emphasize how important relationships are in this industry, in this business, not just with other coaches, but it's interesting to hear how excited your players were for you at St. Mary's, understanding that they were losing you on the bench, sure, but they were still seeing somebody grow and whatnot. It's been cool to see that kind of continue here, because I think you've brought that in the culture here. You see it every day. Even, and I know we're going to get into basketball and this team and whatnot, but even with this team with so many new faces, to see people celebrate each other, especially in today's day and age in college athletics, I think is really, really important.
Yeah, and I want to echo the sentiment about culture, because and the college landscape right now, how you see a lot of transfers, especially in the world of men's basketball and all that stuff. And you've had a lot of your players stay, which has been and finish out their time here in Hawaii, and we will likely see that continue. So that definitely is a testament to everything that you've built over there. As we are joined by UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot. We got to take a quick break. When we come back, we will start to transition into our basketball conversation and look ahead at what's going on this season. So if you guys want, you can text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481. So we'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
I thought he wanted to open up
I
the
did.
show
I
from
didn't
the
know
break.
if the song went down and then you spoke. I just wanted to say, like, when you hear that, you hear the Hawaii 5-0 for life, it gives you chills.
And shout out to the UH band right there. That is actually, yes, them playing. I've recorded it at like one of the games and had to have it as our rejoin song every once in a while, especially when we have UH guests in studio, as we were joined by UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot. We'll get into this season and the players in just a little bit. But before we do, though, I just wanted to ask you about something that is very important to you and a cause that you are very passionate about, and that is Coaches versus Cancer, something that you've been very active in promoting and doing good things for it. And I just want to kind of ask you, like, where that, like, how you got into it. Was it something that you always wanted to do, and then getting into being a huge advocate for that program and what it means to you?
Well, it goes back to what I said earlier about you work your tail off to be in a position of influence to affect lives in a positive way. And so I want to make sure I'm doing my part. We're doing our part. Our kids know that, because our kids, as you know, our student athletes, our guys are incredible in the community. And so the more you can reinforce that. But my 22 years of coaching, we've always been involved with it, from a Coaches for Cancer week where at one point it was the suits and sneakers. And then when I became head coach, I say this story all the time. Lon Kruger, I knew a little bit, and he was kind of the lead and the chair of Coaches for Cancer, and we were about to play him in the Diamond Head, and I knew one of his assistants really well. And I said, hey, I want to get more involved in this than just the suits and sneakers. And I could tell how important it was, because when I said that, minute later, I get a call from Lon Kruger. And then maybe the next week, the head of American Cancer Society comes over to UH. And then all of a sudden, we find out. So it's like, what can you do in Hawaii? And so everybody has these events, or the few people who do can have these events, and we don't always have coaches around. We're in Hawaii. So year one, we did the first year of the event at Murphy's with Roy Williams, because we were playing them. This is my second season, year one of the event. Because we're playing North Carolina. And so he was great. And so it shows you, man, these guys are really busy, but they'll stop everything for this fight against cancer. And then after year one of ours, we said, what's the best way we can get all these coaches? And it became the Diamond Head. So each year we've gotten pretty much 100% of the coaches there. So you get 7 new coaches. And we do it at Outrigger Reef. Like I said, this year we're doing our 8th annual Coaches vs. Cancer event, and it's been incredible. It's been successful. We're raising money. We're raising awareness. It's talked about throughout the Diamond Head. So I feel like we're doing our part. We're going to continue to chip away to make it bigger and better. All of us have been touched one way or another, directly or indirectly, by this dreadful disease. Obviously, you've coached long enough. You'll have guys you've coached with, guys you've worked for, guys on your team. And we have one of the 31 or 32 Hope Lodges in the country where the money stays right here. And we will be taking our team this fall to the Hope Lodge once again and visit it and feed the people who are there.
I'm so happy that you said that, because I was going to say it if you didn't, because I honestly did not know until maybe last year's event or 2 years ago that the money did stay here. Because as someone who's passionate about all the issues we have going on here, I like to know where I donate, like whether it be the blood bank or the food bank. That's why those are the two that I'm passionate about, because I know it's not going anywhere else. It's staying here in Hawaii. So I think that's important for people to know that for Coaches versus Cancer, what you do, the money does stay here and goes to the Hope Lodge here.
Yeah, and it's an incredible collaboration. You know, like the first year we were starting something, you get no sponsors, one sponsor, 5, 10, and it's grown. And so anybody who's listening right now, reach out to us. We're looking for more sponsors. We're trying to continue to raise more awareness. Like it's like anything, it's gotten really successful, but we want more money, more awareness. Let's keep fighting. Eventually we will crush cancer. And there have been a lot of inroads made. There have been improvements, but we're still fighting it.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I mean, I know it's a while back. What did it mean to be named the champion of the year? Just is part of the whole thing. I know that you're not going to want to talk about yourself, but in something that is so important, something that is you're so passionate about, like how cool was it to just be in that moment and be like, all right, maybe I really am like making that difference. You know, it's being seen elsewhere.
Well, I think I was the person, and I think you could put a Hawai'i on my whole body when I was like, that is who was the recipient, really. Because I know it's, you know, because I can't tell. We have a Coaches versus Cancer committee. We've had these sponsors step up. The reef has been fantastic. The food's been incredible, auction items, and you guys helping us promote that. So when I got the call, I'm sure Alana and I have gotten really close, Lon Kruger, and I got like missed calls from him because we were in March. It was and usually when I'm in Vegas, he will come by because he lives in Vegas, and he'll come say hello, which is incredible from him. He's obviously a Hall of Fame coach, but he's more than that, and so a great mentor as well. And so when I had missed his call because we were in practice, and I'm like, oh, he's probably maybe coming to practice or something, and then I got a couple other calls. Hey, you got to get back to Lon Kruger, and then he set me up. And when he said, hey, by the way, we're going to do this, and then of course I said something like, you know, you might want to rethink that, you know, and then he said, nah, we're doing this, and so that was it was cool because of what it embodied.
All right, let's switch it over now. I know everyone's been like waiting at the edge of their seats to start talking about this year's team and some of the current players. Before we get into some of your questions, though, I do want to at least ask you, in case people missed the end of the first hour and we broke the news that Cody Williams has earned himself a scholarship with the team. So just talk a little bit about Cody and his contribution so far, because from what we've seen, and by potentially this year too, he's not exactly someone that's always in the starting five or that main rotation, but players can earn themselves scholarships just by what they contribute elsewhere. So just talk a little bit about the player that Cody is and how he earned his scholarship.
Well, there's nothing like recognition, but it's very emotional when it's deserved. Like no handouts. It's a great moment, but he deserved it, and I think it was the first time we've seen him that emotional, and probably because it was earned, the work he put in, and you want to reward that. And you know, I think, you know, I talked about it yesterday with the group, like, you know, the work he's put in, where we've asked him to do. He's checked the boxes, and obviously he's been impactful on the floor. I remember first year we had everybody in foul trouble in the Diamond Head championship game, and he gave us a lift. And then last year, you know, we had a tough stretch. We were 2-6, and we had more Sec Hurd, Javon Hurd, and he was a big spark to get us, you know, to go down a 10-3 stretch. So this is, and I'm not saying this just to say I never do, but 22 years of coaching, this is and I said this, but this is the best athlete. I mean, we do all the NBA combine tests, and he's putting out numbers. So that's one part, like athlete, strong, physical. Disservice if that's all we talk about with Cody. So defensively, he's gone more consistent and used those attributes. We've challenged him to be a better shooter. He's become one of our better shooters in the summer, fall, into the first couple of days of practice. So, and he gives you the toughness. He knows what our culture is about. And so, and you guys have seen this. The starters have to keep earning it. And I've started walk-ons over scholarship guys. Like, this is an earned program. This is and the reason he's played is because he's earned, and the reason he's getting the scholarship is because he's earned it. And more than anything, it's a statement to the group, because we want to be about growth mindset. And so, yes, he earned this because of his performance, but he also is sending a message that you can improve if you have the right mindset. And so hopefully that continues to spread throughout our program.
And that's all the young players listening right now too, and the parents listening. It's huge. It's across all of sports, right? Especially, like I said, now what we see how college is changing so drastically. There are still programs and coaches that are very much still about the purity of growing, and not just, hey, you're just going to get whatever you want, but because that's what is going to happen. So again, shout out and congratulations to Cody Williams. If you guys do want to see the video, you can go to the Hawaii men's basketball social media. All right, before we go to our next break, I want to get into...
We surprised them pretty good, I
know.
think.
So, like, the video came out when we're still on air, and obviously we had to get you into the studio, so I have not been able to watch it yet, but I'm so excited because by all accounts, it's supposed to be like an awesome video, and you said got really emotional. So I'm excited. Once this show's done, then I'm going to definitely go watch it.
Well, Ryan Rapp, I think, was one of them who may have known. And so we're like sitting there going, Ryan Rapp cannot keep a secret. And you could probably see it because he's really close to Coach, as they all are. And you could see on his face, like, Ryan, keep it calm. Like, let us get through this. Yeah. But it's not just let me say this. There's nothing in coaching like seeing a student athlete grow or a team come together, or when you can sit on the chair and watch your student athletes smile and be happy. And then, so the moment to me yesterday wasn't just seeing the genuine emotion and tears from Cody. It was the similar emotion from his teammates and the staff. And that's pretty cool.
I love it.
So cool.
This is so cool.
I love
I'm excited.
Like that.
I'm excited to watch it. All right. I lied. We're going to take our break a little early just because I want to end the show with just all about this year and all of the things we need to talk about with the new players that are coming in. So we're going to take a break. So don't go anywhere. We'll wrap it up with the program itself and what to look forward to this year, as we're joined by UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and joined in studio with UH men's basketball head coach Eran Ganot. All right, as we said before, want to make sure I get into your questions because we had texts come in like even before our first hour started at 8 a.m. So I want to make sure I ask their questions as we get into talking about this year's program. So first up, 2 questions. Who do you project as starting point guard? Who do you project as the go-to guy for scoring / the playmaker? I know practice just started, and I did prep our listeners that there's not much that you can share, but as best you can, just answer this question or a couple questions for our listener.
I will always answer as best I can, and I will not get in trouble. So some of that is really tough to say. Obviously we're right now in a year where you have a lot of new faces, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, it's fun to see. Like I said, we're finally getting more access to the guys. 4 hours of basketball or whatever it is a week for the summer and the fall is not a lot. And now you're close to 20 hours a week of strength conditioning basketball. And that's significantly different, especially with the new group. So I think we're looking at a lot of different combinations. You can see, obviously Marcus Green as a scorer is a guy who scored 15 or 16 a game. He has it in him. I do think we've done a good job over the years, and you've seen it with Bernardo and Javon and Noel and Eddie Stansbury and those guys. Guys make a jump. So a lot of people from an outside, if you haven't seen them, you make predictions of what you have coming in, what you have coming back, rather than the improvement of what you have coming in when you get access to them and the improvement of what you have coming back. So I do think, Tom Beatty, Akira, those are 2 guys who got significant minutes in this day and age as freshmen that will help them for this year. And I would expect their scoring to go up. But like I said, from the returners, you do have Marcus Green, who's been a 15, 16 a game guy. You do have Tanner Christensen, who's been a double-figure scorer already at the Division I level. I think Gitas stands out because he is a natural scorer because he's very aggressive. He attacks. Sometimes initially you see the potential of scoring from each guy just by how aggressive they are. And, he's a guy, I talk about how we've had success with, the Kamakahepa, Jack Purchase, Justin McCoy, Noah Allen. These are high-profile NCAA tournament, Sweet 16 type programs that they're just playing behind pros. And Gitas was a very good program at Xavier, and he did play. He started a lot of games. He's had a 18, 20-point game. So, it was not as much getting him comfortable to play more minutes because he's kind of done that. Now it's playing more of a leading role. So, the point guard position, I think that we got 4 guys we're throwing in there in and out. And obviously I've talked about Marcus. Tom Beatty has played point guard, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him in there as well. Aaron Clater is a very good freshman who has a really good sense of the position. He sees the floor well. He is very competitive. He's had a good start to his freshman campaign, and he's got a very bright future. And obviously Cody Williams. I mean, Cody Williams is at the point of attack. They're not always going to be the same type of point guard, but they do need to run their team, give the group a sense of confidence. Cody, I think, is going to be one, if not the best disruptors in our league defensively. But he's really improved. Obviously, he's very fast getting the paint, but he's improved his decision-making and shooting. So there's been great competition there.
Yeah, and again, practice just started. So for everyone, we'll get a better idea as we go through this next month. Okay?
I think I have to have the starting 5 right now.
Yeah, right now.
But I love the question, though. It's fair.
Of course. And if you guys can text us at 808-888-KG1. That's 808-888-5481. All right, another texter texting in, Eran, what modifications are you working on so that UH men's basketball makes that long sought-after breakthrough to win the Big West? I am a fan of your program.
Yeah, that's a great question. I know we've talked about, 7 straight winning seasons, back-to-back 20-win seasons. We want more. We want the breakthrough. And sometimes there's been some things we're talking about with a bunch of alums the other day, like you need a break here and there in a one-bid league. If Javon McClanahan makes that shot, which we fought to get that, you could go into the championship and anything can happen there. And I always say the harder thing is it's harder to get in the tournament than to advance in the tournament. But I even think the 1 year we didn't have the season with COVID, that's Eddie Stansbury. Samuta was out, Bernardo was out, and then we had them all for that last stretch, and then we didn't get to play. I do remember we talk about the one group with when we lost Juan Munoz, we lost Samuta, and then we lost Bernardo because of the wrist, and that group won 13 of 18 going into the final stretch, but Noel had the fracture near his eye. So, you need a couple breaks there too, but I do think we'll always have a blueprint to answer this question of how we run our program, the style of play, offensively, defensively, which will be based on team, and we'll wrinkle it for the strengths of our personnel. So I think one of the big things, if we can keep that going this year and take care of the ball better, which I think this group has the chance to do. If we can do that, you go from good to great. And obviously there's already, and you guys won't see yet, but we will wrinkle our deal towards our personnel. We have it's a different group, so we'll address that.
Kind of to combine the two questions that our texters have sent in, it seemed like during the offseason you guys focused on getting a bit bigger, stronger, longer, taller, at the guard position especially. Was that something that you guys were looking to do, or did that just kind of happen how it ended up? Or was that something that you wanted to do going into this Big West season, especially after the graduation of guys like Javon, Noel, so on and so forth?
No, I think that was a target without losing who we are. Like I tell people all the time, it's a different landscape in college athletics, and people say, how are you going to attack it? And you've heard me say, we're going to attack it and navigate it the best way we can and stay consistent with who we are, how we want to run our culture, consistent with the Hawaii values, be based on team. So sometimes you might have this guy that you want, but I joke all the time, not joke, but like you'll hear in recruiting, hey, this guy doesn't want to be in the gym. This guy's got off the court issues. You got to walk this guy to class. And we'll just say, no, we won't. He won't be part of this deal because those guys won't get better. And so, I feel like we're bigger. You can sense we're bigger, but we're not going to pass up on a good guard because he's smaller. We'll just wrinkle him for it. Does that make sense? Like I use the example my first year, we used to always have this back to the basket 5 I'm used to, and then we had Jenks, and then I'm like, okay, Jenks is going to be a hybrid 5. We're going to use him differently. And the next year was Noah Allen. Well, typically we've had 3 men who are 3-and-D guys, but Noah could play in ball screens and he can post, and so we're going to adjust that. And right now we've been experimenting a lot because I think Jerome's good, Jerome Palm's good, Tanner Christensen's good. Harry really just made a jump, and Gitas is impactful, and here comes Akira Jacobs. And so what do? The first 3 practices you're probably watching goes, wait a minute, Akira's the 3? And we did that a couple years ago. If you remember, we were like, at one point in the meeting, we're like, well, who's it going to be, Jerome or Kamaka at the 4? And we just said, why not both?
Both will.
Play big. And so moved Junior Madut to the point. And so there's a lot of that experimenting going on right now, but you can feel the size is a little different. I mean, obviously we got Tanner down to 260, which is great. But he's the guy running a 5:34 mile. Like
Right.
these guys are working hard, and they're a great group to work with. We're obviously trying to learn about each other. There's still ups and downs when you have so many new faces, but we're enjoying working with them.
Yeah, actually, I want to ask you specifically about Akira Jacobs. Obviously, had a big summer. So, did you notice not only a change in his basketball skill, but also maybe just does he have a little bit more confidence now heading into practice this season?
Well, we've said that when you throw a Tom Beatty and an Akira Jacobs in the fire as freshmen, and how does that not help you for the next year? And obviously, Akira, I've only coached, and not many do. You don't get many college players playing the Olympics. I was fortunate to coach Del Vadova when he played in the Olympics, and when he came back, now he was older. Akira did it after his freshman year, and so it's funny too. Can you watch him? Like he sends a clip or something about him shooting a 3 over Jokic. I sent him. We're saying, what about the one he hit over you? No. Just think about the guy. Every day, every practice he's going against pros. Every day he's guarding. Every game over there he's guarding a pro, and so he came in at 203 or something. He's 221 right now, and he's now we're throwing him at the 3, so you can feel like he's ready for a jump, and his composure, his mentality has always been really good. Sometimes guys just need some reps, and he's had some under his belt.
All right, we have about 4 minutes left, so I want to make sure I pretty much give you the floor entirely. I want you to not only promote the upcoming tip-off, of course, but also just anything else you want to say to all of the UH men's basketball fans listening as well.
I always, as you know, I start everything, end with everything, every meeting with being thankful. So I'm very thankful for everybody listening, everybody who's not, for their support. This is year 105 and we did our history of the program lesson already for our team. This is year 105. And, we've been through some ups and downs, whether it was, dealing with the clouds, our first year, dealing with the clarity of the clouds. The following years, here comes COVID, here comes injuries, and here comes this landscape of college athletics, NIL, all this stuff, and roster sizes. And we just got to stay together, and not just for our program, all of UH, the athletic department. It is like, there's strength in numbers, and you need to have alignment. And if we can weather some of the ups and downs, the best is yet to come. And, I do know, we just finished our third practice, and obviously November 8th is the start of our schedule with the Rainbow Classic. We have some cool initiatives in the offseason with the exhibition games, one in Hilo and another one to be announced shortly. October 17th, there's our 8th annual tip-off. So check our site. I know you guys will be providing information. I think it's one of the best tip-off events, if not the best in the country. It'll be sold out, 500 people, interactive. I think we're announcing so that was October 17th. On October 19th, we're bringing back a kind of a version of the old Midnight Ohana with a Rainbow Madness, which information to come. And season tickets on sale. So pack the place. We're bringing back the Rainbow. We host the Diamond Head, Corpus Christi, Weber State are 20-win programs. We always want a Mountain West team and a WCC team in the Rainbow if you can get it. We have that with Pacific and San Jose State. And obviously Friday night, top 10 North Carolina comes into town. So let's pack the house. I don't think our guys appreciate anything more than stepping in there and feeling the energy of the crowd. And we have so many longtime supporters and new ones hopefully on the way. And I just know I appreciate the heck out of everybody who's supporting us and all of UH and athletics, especially in this time. I think this is where we can make our move if we can really step up our, guys, it's a unique time. And let's show a lot of love for everything Hawaii.
Right, there you go, October 17th. I'm so curious about this exhibition game because Coach Beeman also dropped that little, there's another exhibition game. So I'm like, wait a minute. And now you mentioned the exhibition game that's us on top of the one against UH Hilo coming up at the end of October. I'm like, what is this exhibition
Just ever so
game?
interesting hints, the little bread crumbs being dropped.
And I love how you guys are trying to tempt me to divulge the information, but I won't.
Like, dang it.
He's an old pro, he's a veteran.
I know. All right, guys, about just a little bit over a minute left. So we do definitely want to thank you for taking your entire hour this morning. And I'm glad we could grab you right before I would like to say the craziness does start even more so, because as you mentioned, all of the events coming up, again, men's basketball tip-off event, October 17th. And then what is it going to be called again? Midnight?
I think it's going to be called Rainbow Madness.
Rainbow Madness coming up on the 19th of October. But be sure to stick around for more details with that. And October is tomorrow already, everybody. Like, this is crazy. And here we are, basketball season. Yes.
I can't believe how many days just flew by because I was like, man, basketball's so far away. And then all of a sudden it was boom, Rainbow Wahine practice, boom, Rainbow Warrior practice. I couldn't be happier.
Yep. All right. Well, we just about have to bow out of here. So again, Coach Ganot, thank you for joining us. You can wave to our YouTube fans right there on this camera. Bye.
Where?
Right here.
Oh, I didn't even know there was a camera there the whole time.
It's like in the background right there. That means it's good. It's been hiding. But for now, we got to go. So for Coach Eran Ganot, Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani. Mahal for listening and watching. Bye.